It's not every day that a US president threatens military action against a country halfway across the world. But Donald Trump isn't exactly known for restraint. His latest target? Nigeria. Over the weekend, Trump claimed on social media that Christians were being killed in large numbers in Nigeria and that he'd asked the Pentagon to prepare for fast military action if the country didn't stop the so-called Christian genocide. But is it really that simple? Or is this another case of Trump's Twitter diplomacy mixing moral outrage with misinformation? Nigeria, Africa's most populous nation, has been battling multiple layers of insecurity for years. In the northeast, the Boko Haram insurgency, responsible for killing tens of thousands and displacing millions, remains a nightmare. In the northwest, criminal gangs and kidnappers terrorize rural communities. And in the middle of it all, quite literally in the middle belt, lies the country's most complex and deadly crisis, the farmer-herder conflict. This is where things get messy. States like Benue, Plateau, Nasarawa, and southern Kaduna have become flashpoints of recurring violence. The clashes often pit mostly Christian farming communities against mostly Muslim Fulani herders, a combustible mix of ethnic, economic, and religious tension. Take the July attack on Yelwata village in Benue, for instance. Over 160 people were killed, houses, schools, and churches were torched, families fled with nothing but the clothes on their backs. It's no wonder some communities see it as a campaign of extermination. But here's the catch. It's not one-sided. Retaliatory attacks by farming communities have also devastated Fulani settlements. Entire villages have been wiped out on both sides. So yes, there's horrific violence. But is it genocide? Enter Trump and his evangelical base. Social media influencers, Western religious organizations, and even US politicians like Senator Ted Cruz have been loudly declaring that Nigeria is witnessing a Christian genocide. Cruz even introduced a bill to sanction the Nigerian government for allegedly allowing it to happen. But Nigerian officials strongly reject these accusations, and experts seem to agree. Experts say the problem isn't a state-led attempt to kill Christians. It's simply that the government has failed to protect anyone. In other words, it's not a targeted religious campaign, it's just terrible governance.
This is not a Christian genocide because the facts don't support it. If you look at the areas where this conflict is rife, even if you take Borno State alone, you look at northern Borno, many of these communities are Muslim dominated. So most of the victims of Boko Haram violence are Muslims. This is why we said it's not right, it's not good, it's not helpful to narrow this conflict, to narrow it down to religion. What is crucial is that Nigerian government sees this threat as threat to lives of every Nigerian. So dealing with it is very, very crucial. And if the government fails to do that, you cannot blame citizens if they qualify it, whether Christian genocide, Muslim genocide, or whatever. As far as Nigerians are concerned, they just want to sleep with their two eyes closed. So the failure of the government to ensure that gives rise to different narratives. But the fact on ground, supported by relevant data, don't support this as a Christian genocide.
Of course, none of this means religion plays no role. Nigeria's middle belt has a long history of Christian-Muslim mistrust. The Fulani herders, for instance, are descendants of groups linked to Islamic jihads that once swept across northern Nigeria centuries ago. That historical baggage fuels today's perception of a grand Islamization agenda, even when the violence has more to do with land, drought, and competition over shrinking resources. But experts caution against turning every massacre into a religious crusade. The truth lies somewhere between the hashtags and the headlines. Nigeria's crisis isn't about Christians versus Muslims. It's about citizens versus chaos. Years of government failure, poverty, and environmental stress have turned local disputes into bloodbaths. Communities that once coexisted peacefully are now trapped in cycles of revenge. What Nigeria needs isn't Trump's fast military action, but meaningful investment in governance, justice, and rural development.
The US can strengthen Nigeria's capacity in intelligence gathering, because very important in defeating this group is the use and deployment of intelligence. But beyond that, the area that is very, very important again is in the area of terrorism financing. and the US has all the expertise that it can assist Nigeria with. One thing we know is that this violent extremist group, whether you call them the two Boko Haram faction, JAS or ISWAP, or even the new group emerging in the northwest of Nigeria called the Lakrawa, these groups are raising revenues around the border communities, to further their operations.
Because if there's one thing everyone agrees on, whether Christian or Muslim, it's that the Nigerian state has failed to protect its people. So, is there a genocide in Nigeria? No, not in the legal sense. But there's definitely a tragedy, and while Trump tweets about Christian persecution, real Nigerians of all faiths are paying the price. Nigeria's crisis isn't God versus Allah, it's the people versus neglect. And no, Mr. Trump, the solution isn't an airstrike, it's governance. With Farhan Khan, Bureau Report, India Today Global.